Hi, it's Sasha from sashaharang.com, and today I'm going to talk to you about sauerkraut. And again, it's another thing that I have on the go in my kitchen all the time because sauerkraut benefits are just, well, pretty bloody amazing actually. You should be having sauerkraut all the time. Fermented food is something that you should incorporate in your everyday eating. We aren't getting enough fermentation in our bodies, so we're not getting the right microbes in our gut, so that our gut can work really well. And rather than just going down the shop and buying in tablet forms the probiotics, you can get plenty of the correct bacteria for your gut through sauerkraut. So it's really simple to do, and you can do it in a few different ways, but I'll show you the way I do it. And you just get one whole cabbage, and it can be red or white, it doesn't matter. I actually grow my own. And you get a bowl, and it has to be either glass or a ceramic bowl. A slow cooker is actually really good, but my slow cooker at the moment has bone broth in it, so I can't use it. But a ceramic bowl or a glass bowl or a plastic container, but it must be BPA, approved. It can't be leaching plastic into your sauerkraut, so a proper food grade plastic is the way to go. And you chop the cabbage as finely as you can, and then you have to put the cabbage into your bowl. And what we're trying to do with this is actually get the juice out of the cabbage through osmosis. So we're trying to get a brine going out of the cabbage, its own juices. And we do that by sprinkling it with, having problems speaking today, I put in Himalayan salt. You can use sea salt, not table salt, and it's got to be fine so you can sprinkle it through, and then you pound down the cabbage in the bowl with the salt, and within about 10-15 minutes you get a nice brine starting to come out of the cabbage, and you just keep doing that until you've shredded up all the cabbage and put it into your bowl with the salt. So, just put in, they say about a tablespoon and a half of salt, but it depends on how big the cabbage is. It varies, so just use your common sense. You don't want it too salty, so I just sprinkle a few layers on, start pounding the cabbage to get it to release those juices. You just keep doing this until you get it to start doing this through osmosis. And then when you get enough juice, you'll find after about 10-15 minutes the juice will start coming out of the cabbage, and it usually is enough juice or brine there to cover the cabbage. Now, the important thing to remember about sauerkraut is that the cabbage actually must be completely covered because it needs anaerobic activity for the fermentation to take place. So you don't want any air getting into any part of the cabbage. So in other words, you don't want the cabbage sticking out through the brine and being exposed to the air basically. Otherwise you start getting molds and things growing, which isn't a big drama, but the whole idea is to have the fermentation process take place under the brine in an anaerobic environment. So when you've done all that and you've got the brine covering your cabbage, and if you don't have enough, then you just need to pound it more and keep going, so you get those arm muscles working, a bit more salt. If you do have to cover it because it's just not enough brine coming out of there, mix a bit of salt in water and only use filtered water, and cover it until it's completely covered, that the cabbage is not sticking out above the surface area, above the water in any way. So when you've done that, then the idea is to weight it down with a plate. So you get your cabbage bowl, say it's covered in brine, you put your plate on top that fits as snugly as you can inside your bowl, and it's all got the brine in there, just imagine. Then you weight it down with a jar filled with water or a rock. Make sure if you're going to use a rock that you boil the rock first, because we don't want any bacteria going in there. Make sure it's nice and clean. But a jar filled with water is just suffice. then stays at room temperature. Now, you can keep it in a cupboard or whatever. It doesn't really matter as long as it's out of your way. It's not to go in the fridge, in other words. It's at room temperature. The warmer it is, the quicker the fermentation takes place. And I live in Australia, so it is so hot here today. You know, within 3 or 4 days we're going to have this being able to be eaten as sauerkraut. Now, there's 2 things you can do. You can drink the brine, which is really, really good for you, but you can also eat the sauerkraut as well. And you can have it as, you know, you can add it to your salad, you can put it on burgers if you're making hamburgers. You can steam it and have it mixed with your vegetables. Whatever you like, you can just eat it straight out of the jar if you like. It's a really nice taste, and the longer you leave it fermenting, the stronger the flavour is. So you just stop the fermentation when you get to the flavour that you like, and that's pretty much it. It's sort of done in 3 or 4 days, but you can leave it there for a month or more, 6 weeks if you like it that really strong taste. You will get this sort of white scum growing on the top of it, which looks a bit yucky, but it's really quite harmless. It's not going to hurt you in any way. Just skim as much of the scum off as you can, and you just keep, you may have to top it up if some of that juice gets a bit low. Just pour a little bit of water, filtered water in there, to make sure that that cabbage stays under the water, and it stays there for, you know, a month, 6 weeks or so. Some people even keep it longer, so it's totally up to you. It's a very personal thing. Then you can jar it and put it in the fridge, and it will stay in your fridge for months because it's fermented food, and it's got all the right bacteria in there that will still ferment actually while it's in the fridge, but much more slowly. And it is just such good bacteria for your gut. It's something that is essential, and we should be incorporating in our diets every day. I think that's pretty much it. One more thing you do need to do is, of course, cover it with a tea towel, and I then put a elastic band around it, and it must be a big enough tea towel to cover it all, so that is the dust and every other thing stays out of it. So I then put an elastic band over the rim of the bowl with the tea towel on top, so it keeps the dust and the bugs and things out of your sauerkraut, and you can just leave it out for many, many weeks and just keep eating it straight from there. It is quite nutritious and good for you and won't hurt you in any way. It's actually jam-packed full of really good bacteria for you. So try making some sauerkraut. It's so easy to do. And if you're making another batch of sauerkraut, I highly recommend, before you throw your old batch of sauerkraut out, that you keep some of the brine and put it in your new batch, because the fermentation process starts up so much more quickly with some good bacteria planted in there from your other fermented sauerkraut. So if you just take a bit of that juice out and put it in your new batch, you will have the fermentation process starting so much more quickly. So I think that's all I needed to tell you about sauerkraut, but that and bone broth is something that I just have going all the time. It's really great for your inner health. It keeps you well, stops you from getting sick. It helps build your immune system, and in my opinion is really good for fighting cancer and all those nasty little diseases that are out there, by just incorporating these really simple things in your everyday diet that have been around for a very long time. And there's a lot to be said for that. So to your health, and all the best, and have a beautiful day. If you like this video, please leave a comment or press the like or subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.